Nebraska starting quarterback Dylan Raiola will be out for the rest of the season with a broken fibula. And the news for Nebraska fans that was already bad only gets worse. What's left for Nebraska in this season, and what can we expect from TJ Lateef? What's up, going to vote? What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching, adapt and respond. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If you're into that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. How do you feel about Dylan Raiola missing the rest of the season after breaking his leg just a few minutes into the second half of their game against USC on Saturday night? Before Raiola broke his leg against USC, Nebraska was leading SC 14-6. And while it had not thrown the ball well, it had been running the ball well. And Raiola's calling card of trying to A, keep plays alive, and B, not throw the ball to the other team were reasons as to why they were able to get out in front of SC and probably would have been able to find something toward the end. But it's got to be more than Dylan Raiola. Like, it's one of the reasons why I think this hurts so much is Emmett Johnson played outstanding football, and they relied on him quite a bit offensively to try to not just get on top of USC, but stay on top of USC. But having a competent quarterback back there really changes things for everyone, let alone Nebraska. I think what you have seen from Dylan Raiola through his first one and a half seasons, 1 2/3 seasons, is just what kind of a quarterback he is. He's a game manager, and not in the pejorative, right? He is good at managing the game. And that is what I think Matt Rhule and Nebraska ultimately want to be. They want to be the kind of football team that can look a lot like an old school Alabama, that can look a lot like Michigan when it's going well. You have a quarterback that can make plays when it's time to go make plays, but you want to be a time of possession ball control team. You want to be able to run the football with efficiency and keep your defense off the field and have them play the kind of defense that forces the opponent to play with tempo and to put the ball in the air more often, which means as a defense, you don't have to send more than 4 if you don't want to, because you know the offense is pressing. They have to go score. They have to go get 6. So you can ask your safeties to play a little bit further off or play more robber. You can play more zone. You can do more zone blitz. You can simulate pressures if you want to. But to do that, you got to have a quarterback that can make the throws when they are there and force teams to continue to stay in a too high look and not bring that 8th man down in the box where you don't have the numbers advantage you otherwise would. Dylan Raiola is really good at that, even before Dana Holgorsen got there. And I think Dana Holgorsen was going to make him into a better version of that. But it's also a quarterback that had been sacked quite a bit, and against Minnesota and Michigan had been sacked 16 times. I think the difference for the game last night was he'd only been sacked once by USC, as his Uncle Dominic's offensive line was holding up pretty well. When Lateef came in, though, it wasn't exactly as good as Raiola, but it wasn't as bad either as what I thought it could be, right? It was 5 of 7 for 7 yards, right? He rushed for 18 yards. He led a 57-yard drive in 10 plays that ended in a field goal, but that's positive for a freshman coming off the bench in time when he didn't expect to come off the bench, where there's a very clear leader to this football team that is the guy that is ahead of you on the depth chart. Now, there's also the one first down that they did gain was lost possession after Lateef and Johnson hit each other, collided into each other on 4th and 1, trying to, do a regular ass handoff on the 27-yard line. It was just bad, right? But with Lateef at quarterback, Nebraska was able to incorporate some of the things that they can't otherwise with Dylan Raiola, which is run action, which you're probably going to see more of that. He's completed 11 of 12 passes, 254 yards, and a TD in reserve against Akron and Houston Christian. But the kind of opponents they're facing on the way out are not going to be, Houston Christian and, my goodness, Akron. They're going to have to fight this all the way through to the end. And you feel good about your recruiting class. I believe right now Nebraska's pushing for number 1, but that ain't going to help you right now. That recruiting class is next year. And even next year, you need time to grow them up. You need time to bring them in. You need time to figure out who's going to be able to contribute and who's going to go into the transfer portal, among other things. But it's a Nebraska team that has also really failed to live up to its end. Like I did a whole segment on this after the game because I was fired up about it, because Nebraska sits at 6-3 and it is a disappointment. It's not something that we've been able to say about Nebraska with any sort of regularity since it joined the Big Ten. But 6-3 Nebraska should, in my estimation, be a program that could be at the very least 8-1. Like the Minnesota game, you're just not in that. Yeah, that was Minnesota's on top of you, and they had you 24-6. But the game against Michigan, you got run on. And if the defense could stop the run, you would have probably won that game. You lost it 30-27, and Michigan's ranked and still ranked at the time, still ranked now. SC ranked when you played them, 21-17, just could not find another score. You can get to 9 wins, and you can get a really good bowl game out of this. You're just not going to make the Big Ten championship game, and you're not going to make the college football playoff, which are the two things that Nebraska is striving for. And this is supposed to be the magic year for Matt Rule. So 10 wins is still very much in the cards, right? You go undefeated the rest of the way. You beat UCLA in Los Angeles. You go to a down Penn State team that has lost its last 5, and you go into Happy Valley, try to get a W there. And then you got a really tough Iowa team in your Big Ten rivalry, which is wild because Iowa, Nebraska is a Big Ten rival. Just it feels forced. It's like Oklahoma and Ole Miss. It just feels forced. It's going to be fun, or it is fun, but it just feels forced. And then you go into the bowl game, and you could probably end up 10-3 if TJ Lateef ends up being the kind of guy that can make something happen either with his legs or throwing the football. But the wide receivers that we expected them to become in Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, just I'm not. It just doesn't live up to the expectation that was set, right? That's why we're being so hard on it. When you expect year 3 Matt Rule to go win you 11 games and to put you in contention for the college football playoff, you don't expect to be out of it before the college football playoff rankings are revealed. And that is essentially what has happened with the loss to USC. And now you could just as easily finish 6-6 as go 9-3 this season. You could just as easily finish 6-7 as go 10-3 this season. And none of those things feel good. And as a guy who grew up fearing Nebraska as a child and having a really healthy respect for what that Nebraska team could do to Oklahoma, let alone anybody else, all the way up until I was an adult, like 2009, Nebraska should have beaten Texas in the Big 12 championship game. And Ndamukong Suh was indomitable in that game. Just Texas came away with the W through their Lord and Savior. I mean, they were praying for that one, dog. But that's just not been what Nebraska is since moving to the Big Ten. And yes, we could talk about how Nebraska's fallen off. We could talk about Nebraska's comeback. But this sucks. And I hurt for Dylan. I hurt for Huskers fans. And I hope that this Huskers team finds a way to pull out some wins, 3, in fact, the rest of the way.